Welcome to Free Media. I'm Amber Duke.
And I'm Robby Soave. Well, Stephen A. Smith for president? The ESPN commentator appears to be flirting with a presidential run. He says that various unnamed Democratic political figures are even encouraging him. Let's listen.
I saw you mentioned Bill Maher. I saw Steve Bannon was on with Bill Maher, and he was asked what Democrats he worries about. And you know the only name he mentioned as a Democrat he'd be worried about. So are you really thinking about running for president? Is this something you think?
Listen, I have no choice because I've had elected officials, and I'm not going to give their names, elected officials coming up to me. I've had folks who are pundits come up to me. I've had folks that got a lot of money, billionaires and others, that have talked to me about exploratory committees and things of that nature. I'm not a politician. I've never had a desire to be a politician. I just signed a contract extension with ESPN. I am very, very
pretty
happy
good one, too.
With my day job. I'm very happy with my boss. This is a pretty damn good one. Just right. It's a pretty damn good contract. I couldn't be happier. But here's the reality. People have walked up to me, including my own pastor, for crying out loud, who has said to me, you don't know what God has planned for you. At least show the respect to the people who believe in you, who respect you, who believe that you can make a difference in this country, to leave the door open for any possibilities 2 to 3 years down the line. And that's what I've decided to do. But again.
So it sounds like he's considering it. Do you think there's a doorway for Stephen Smith to move into politics? I think it's not impossible, given his popularity and fame and the fact that we've clearly learned celebrity entertainment success does translate to politics, very famously in the person of Donald Trump. Stephen A. Smith is not nearly as famous as Trump, but the Democrats don't have a really deep bench right now.
Yeah, I don't think it's that crazy at all. On the Democratic side, you have AOC, Bernie Sanders, Gavin Newsom. Like, none of these names are exciting to people.
Man, is AOC really going to be a presidential candidate? Is it going to come to that?
She just raised almost $10 million for her congressional reelection.
That's pretty scary.
I know, it is very scary.
And Bernie's clearly trying to hand off the baton to her. Like, he's doing this kind of
oligarchy
farewell tour, being like, you remember how much you love me, remember how much of a genuine populist movement I had behind me. Please translate this success to her now.
And Stephen A. Smith actually referenced that in an earlier conversation he had about potentially running for president, saying, I have to consider this because the heir apparents in the Democratic Party are so crazy. And he is one of the few voices that's been really unabashedly against the wokeness, the identity politics, the demographics-obsessed wing of the Democratic Party. But I'm curious to see what policies he would actually support if he were to really make the jump into politics, because it is kind of a political unknown.
Yes, and can you win the nomination by being against all the things you just mentioned? That would help him in a general election matchup, certainly, to be on the record as opposing, wokeness extremes and some other things, in the same way that, like, John Fetterman would be a kind of formidable candidate just because conservatives kind of appreciate what he has to do. He's not this out-of-control left-wing person, particularly on identity issues. But in order to get to that stage, the gatekeeping on the Democratic side is like nothing the Republicans have now, where anyone can run and do anything they want. Trump changed that. On the Democratic side, you'd have to convince the most committed, ideologically progressive, affluent, highly educated. That's the Democratic base now. People deeply invested in, I think, in wokeness, and certainly in many progressive ideas about race and gender that are not broadly popular. So that's going to actually work against him.
Yeah, I think that is really the rub, is can he win a primary? Because, like you said, 20% at least of the Democratic base is wildly progressive and out of step with the average American on a whole host of issues. And we saw that play out in the last primary involving Joe Biden, where there were actually multiple states that voted for uncommitted because they wanted to protest his stance on Israel. And then when Kamala came around, there were still a lot of the pro-Palestinian crowd that wasn't convinced that she was going to show a marked difference in the Biden administration's policy on Israel. So it would be very difficult, I think, for Stephen A. Smith, not only for that reason, but also because the top-down model of the Democratic Party, it's really difficult to have an outsider-type candidate. The DNC is largely incredibly in control of the primary process.
Yeah, Bernie found that out himself.
Right. debate scheduling, the superdelegates issue, the fundraising. They're more than happy to sort of put their finger on the scale when it comes to helping a certain candidate that they personally like, and whoever has been waiting in line the right way and has been sort of hand-selected by the party leadership.
Right. The only thing, though, that benefits him is that in this moment, it's not clear who that person is. There's no Hillary Clinton type figure who's like, it's my turn, and the machine of the Democratic Party is going to help me destroy anyone who gets in my way. Kamala Harris kind of had her shot and blew it. She might still seek the nomination. That could happen. I don't know or think that the party will necessarily push her forward as much as it did to Hillary. They could end up having a fight with Gavin Newsom, Josh Shapiro, Gretchen Whitmer, all the people we've been talking about. It is going to be interesting to see. It's going to be quite a battle for whoever ends up deciding they're going to throw their hats in the ring. I can't believe Kamala Harris still wants to go for it, but all the reporting suggests she really does. That she has not. That she thinks if she got to do it on her terms with enough time, that she could have won. I think that's it's literally an untested theory. I was going to say it's an untested theory. Of course it's an untested theory. She did not get the full campaign. Whether she could actually even win the contest to be the guy, unless you were doing it at the last minute saying, okay, well, we have to have someone and it's got to be Kamala because there's no time left to find anyone else.
Yeah, I think it's fairly delusional. And, I mean, the other complicating factor is when you look at the Democratic postmortems, the autopsies that they've been conducting on the party, you have people like James Carville and Stephen A. Smith, even though he's sort of outside of the political establishment, talking about the extremism of the left-wing part of the Democratic Party. But then when the base gets involved, they're like, no, actually the problem is that you didn't defend passionately enough the issues of wokeness and DEI and ESG and all of these other things that we love. So I just don't see them reaching a conclusion among a wide enough swath of the party for them to acknowledge that that is actually the direction that they need to head in.
They definitely have not settled the policy battle, at least in abstract terms. I think maybe like wokeness itself or like pronoun policing, I think has... I don't know how many Democrats think they're going to win by running hardcore on that again, but they certainly haven't finished the argument between just like the left in general and a more moderate Democratic agenda. Because I know plenty of left people will say, well, you basically ran a kind of neoliberal, whatever, Kamala Harris version, and that failed, so now you should try our hardcore class war leftist version. And so they're still having that battle. I don't think they've decided which is the right way to go.
And there are current Democratic...
Neither is the right way to go, really.
And now they have current Democratic governors fighting against the Trump administration on really basic issues like boys competing in girls' sports, which is an 80-20 issue. You have Democratic governors actively trying to prevent ICE from coming into their cities. Mayors, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, preventing ICE from trying to come into her city to deport criminals. Like, these are huge losing issues for the Democrats, and they are putting on display their willingness to obstinately fight the federal government on them. I don't know how you have someone come up out of the Democratic Party and say, oh, well, not those guys. Like, I'm not with them.
Well, and like on economics, Gretchen Whitmer the other day wanted to be like, well, I guess I don't like Trump's tariffs, but I do like tariffs. Like she wants to run on a tariffs policy.
But then she hides behind the folder in the Oval Office. It's like so silly.
Oh, that kind of courage is not going to be doing you well to run for president, I don't think. That's it for tonight. Please come back tomorrow. We'll have more free media then. Thanks so much.